Dear Blizzard, how you doing? I'm doing alright. I've been playing a lot of Legacy of the Void with what little free time I have. And that's not what I'm writing to you about today. I just thought you'd want to know. I thought you'd care. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about StarCraft as much as I may want to know about how it is exactly that the Protoss happen to have thousands of prefabricated buildings floating out in the ether waiting to be warped in planetside just in time to be turned into useless scrap by Zerg. That, unfortunately, isn't the kind of nitpicking I'm in the mood for today. In fact, the level of nitpicking I'm prepared for this week is truly astonishing, even by my own standards. You see, last week, the week I spent researching my letters, my ex-landlord started letting the next tenant move shit into my apartment before I was vacated because, I don't know, reasons? Anyway, while I was dealing with the legal ramifications of my landlord's foolish disregard for contractual agreements, my time to research topics was cut short, so I said to myself, I know what I'll do. I'll pick a topic that's a little bit easier than some of the others that I do, so I'm not pressed down to the wire making my video. A lot of people have been asking me about Roadhog's hookshot thing. I'll just talk about that. Plus, that'll give me an opportunity to point out that I completely suck at my job and messed up Roadhog's weight during the May episode. I was dedicated to doing this somewhat easy topic, but I thought today's video would be far too short if I focused on this one teensy little detail. So I decided to do a bonus topic, kind of like two different science episodes in one. Easy! So I picked my bonus topic and started researching it. And researching it. And researching it! As I read more and more and ran more and more numbers and parsed more and more formulas, I got pulled deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole of Newtonian physics and structural engineering until my entire worldview about how the universe fits together was shattered and reassembled. Gone was my interest in Roadhog, and in its place was a fixation on a topic so pedantic, so nitpicky, so ludicrously absurd to apply real science to that I was simultaneously embarrassed for myself and fucking pumped to share it with you guys. One of the things I love most about Overwatch is Blizzard's attention to detail with their level design. I don't just mean like in the way that Blizzard is always great in every game they make when it comes to perfecting balance. That's their shtick. No, I'm talking about the interesting stuff that populates every single map in the game. Little tastes of the world of Overwatch that makes it feel more real, more lived in, and makes each map feel like its very own character. Of course, to us players, a unique and interesting world is little more than an opportunity to blow off a little steam before matches begin, trashing the spawning zone and other set pieces along the way. Hell, sometimes it's a good idea to clear out the set dressings for tactical reasons. In either case, we love to tear apart the game you spent so much time painstakingly crafting piece by beautiful piece. And it's because of this that I noticed something peculiar, something off. Something that once I looked a little bit closer, I realized was goddamn terrifying. Okay, I'm ready to talk about it. Just promise you won't make fun of me. Oh, fuck you guys, I know you will. Whatever. You may make fun of me now, but once you see the truth, once you see the numbers dance before your very eyes, you too will come to know the fear I have for the members of Overwatch. Are you ready? Everyone in Overwatch, from Mei to Lucio, has the most overpowered punches in the entire history of mankind. What? This is something I noticed a couple weeks ago when I was getting ready for a match and saw someone punch a wrought iron fence into smithereens. Iron! That's the stuff they make steel out of. I couldn't help but ask myself, how the fuck would someone punch apart metal with their bare hands? Is this even fucking possible? I needed to know exactly how fucking terrifying is the quick melee attack in Overwatch. Surprisingly, this is actually something we can figure out. Come with me on this journey to nitpick the smallest feature in history, and together we will discover a massive world of wonder and magic. You might think it's impossible to determine exactly how powerful the melee attack in Overwatch is, and under most circumstances you'd be correct. Not all wrought iron fences are the same. After all, there's remarkably little regulation and consistency across the world in how they're made. They serve a mostly decorative role, although they can help keep dogs from running out of yards and prevent people from tumbling over precarious ledges. Thankfully, we can circumvent all of this by looking at something else entirely. In Route 66, the map that takes place along the famous American highway that helped expedite Western migration in the early half of the 20th century, we find something much more consistent, highly regulated, and well documented, and incidentally, the most durable material I could find that you can punch through in the entire game: street signs. In fact, it's because of these street signs that I even thought to look more closely at the punches at all. Why? Because these signposts have been made the same way for generations. 2 inches by 2 inches of grade 50 ASTM designation A570 12 gauge galvanized steel, and with one punch it snaps like a toothpick. Sure, you might say, but Austin, clearly this is just a piece of background material that's coded to break whenever it experiences any damage at all. I could look at it wrong and it would break. That's not enough for a science episode. Sure, you could say that. Or you could learn to recognize when the wool that's being regularly pulled over your eyes slips just a little bit to reveal a secret, extensive conspiracy that extends deep into the bowels of Blizzard North, the United States government, and ultimately the cabal of corporate overlords who rule us through subliminal messages transmitted through the fluoride in water. But first, in order to understand this secret government subplot, we need to figure out exactly how strong a punch would need to be in order to crack through a steel signpost. In the United States, the world of signage is dominated by 2 major types of signposts: U-channel and square tubes. U-channels have the advantage of being easier to drive into the ground, and they cost less since they're made of less materials. Square tubes are a lot more expensive on the other hand, but you can mount signs on all 4 sides, and they're much sturdier. When you affix a sign to a U-channel post, a simple breeze can flap it around like, I don't know, a metal bird or some shit. These signposts are actually designed to be installed in such a way as to minimize damage to both cars and human bodies. They're inserted into anchor points and are secured with bolts that, when enough force is administered, causes the base of the sign to tear away and fall flat in the direction the force is applied. Not only does this reduce potentially hazardous damage to an out-of-control vehicle by minimizing pointy metal that could rip fuel lines, it also minimizes overall damage to the signpost itself, allowing for an average 60% salvage rate of materials. Awesome! This tearaway feature is created by maximizing bending force applied to the metal on a point, using special bolts to help focus incoming energy. You can actually see this effect both in Route 66 and Numbani, where signs break off at the base as well as in the middle section. So in order to break these signs in half, our punch has to do the same thing as the bolt and anchor at the bottom of the sign and apply bending force until the signpost can no longer take it and simply snaps, correct? Dead wrong. Bending stress is created when there's a uniform stress across one direction of a beam with a neutral axis as a point of support, like when the front end of a car collides with the broadside of a signpost, with the neutral axis being the ground and the anchor. Specifically designed bolts are used to focus the stress on a single point, which increases the likelihood of the metal tearing. Unfortunately, a fist is never going to be able to apply stress this way, and since the very nature of bending stress means that the highest point of force is at the neutral axis, aka the ground, the best case scenario would be the sign tearing and falling flat on the ground. No, in order to punch the beam in half, we're gonna have to use a completely different kind of force: shearing force. Shear stress is a little bit like bending stress, but is measured parallel to a cross section of the material in question. Make sense? No? Okay, so let's just take it for a given that your fist, when you punch something like, I don't know, a 2x2 galvanized steel tube, you're imparting a shearing force into it. The way you look at this force is you take a cross section of the area your fist is impacting, in this case, a square. You then calculate the force going parallel with the area, and boom goes a dynamite. Now, these stresses and forces don't exist in isolation of one another. You're never gonna have a situation where you just have bending force or just shear force. In fact, part of the design of the nut on the base of these signs is to help convert bending stress into localized shear stress, using the vehicle as a kind of lever to maximize the force delivered. Still and all, direct shear force is going to be what we need to know in order to figure out how strong of a punch Lucio or May or whomever the fuck needs to deliver in order to judo chop this tube in half. We need to know a few things: the dimensions of the post, the shear force required to cause a structural failure, and the phone number for the nearest hospital. Galvanized telespar signposts are typically 2 inches by 2 inches in dimension because this is America and we use the imperial system. Deal with it. Those of you who are annoyed by inches, don't worry, we'll dispense with them soon. Anyway, 2 by 2. At these dimensions, we're looking at a wall thickness of gauge 12. Pretty thin in the scheme of things, but we are talking about steel. Knowing this, we can pretty accurately figure out our area of shear force using a cross section at impact, which, converting everything to science's darling metric units, is 0.053 square meters or 5 square centimeters. That's almost nothing. And if you subtract out the holes punched in the side, which could very likely be where the break occurs, it's an even smaller 0.041 square meters. Sweet! So in order to snap this bar, we have to shear our way through 4 centimeters of material. That's hardly anything at all. So what do we need next? Well, we need to know how much force is needed to overcome the shear tolerance of this signpost. And to know that, we're gonna need the shear modulus. Telespar signposts are forged from ASTM A570 steel at grade 50 and are 98% iron, with the rest of the 2% taken up with carbon, copper, manganese, and phosphorus blends that are all designed to give this metal an incredibly high tolerance for punishment and weather. The shear modulus, or the maximum resistance to shear stress for ASTM A570 grade 50, is 8 gigapascals, or 80 billion pascals. Pascals are a unit that measures newtons per square meter, so since we already have our area, all we have to do is multiply the shear modulus by our area and we get a necessary force of 3.29 gigapascals, all delivered from your fist. How much force is that? Well, for comparison, melee attacks in Overwatch cover a distance of 2 meters at a speed of 30 meters per second. Keep in mind that this is already a massively powerful punch, with the fastest punch ever recorded in history being a paltry 19.5 meters per second. 30 meters per second is the speed of a goddamn cheetah. Anyway, in order to deliver 3.29 gigapascals of power moving at this speed, your arm would have to weigh over 180 fucking tons. That's like getting punched in the face with a blue whale. So obviously we're gonna need to go faster and harder. An average person weighing 80 kilograms would be able to deliver this much force if they punched this bar at 2,360 meters per second. No big deal. That's just the escape velocity of the fucking moon, or fucking 7 times the speed of sound. Well, shit, I'm pretty sure your skin would be sandblasted right off. In fact, in order to effectively snap this galvanized bar in the middle using shear force, you'd have to ram it with a fully loaded semi with a pointed tip at the end, speeding as fast as the fastest Formula 1 racing car. On top of this, even if you could conceivably move your hand this quickly, human bones themselves have a much lower resistance to force. So the instant you made contact with the metal, sure, maybe you'd manage to splinter it, but normal human arm bones with an incredibly liberal compressive resistance of 131 megapascals would essentially splinter into powder, as your entire arm would, at best, present 8.9 megapascals of resistance to strain versus the 3,200 megapascals coursing through it. Your arm would be done forever. And before you go showing me videos of martial artists chopping metal bars and breaking metal plates over their head, practitioners of competitive breaking intentionally use brittle alloys and materials for their sport, so don't you even! Which leads me to my final and ultimate conclusion, with Lucio's sound gun being more powerful than a nuclear bomb, May's gun being filled with some magically and impossibly cold superfluid, and I'm sure when I do a video on Roadhog next week, we'll discover he's strong enough to lift a fucking mountain or something, and every character's ability to punch through metal as though it were made of pine, I've realized something. The members of Overwatch aren't human. I mean, other than the obvious. They are, instead, gods walking among us, asserting their will unto us mere mortals who are beholden to their whims like my dog is beholden to mine. That's why the people rebelled and overthrew Overwatch years ago. It's not because of political drama, it's because the people realized they didn't want to be held to the whims of capricious, meddling, and mischievous gods from Mount Olympus, and that is the secret backstory of Overwatch. Or I'm just overthinking a game mechanic oversight. Whatever. Sincerely, Austin. P.S. Today's episode was brought to you by Audible, my personal favorite service of all time. I get to listen to audiobooks while I do my chores in my apartment or while I mindlessly get footage for videos, which is way more mind-numbing than you might think it is. Since today's episode was about gods who walk among us, you should totally check out American Gods by Neil Gaiman. It tells the story of ancient Norse, Greek, pagan, and African gods who struggle to find meaning and purpose in the modern world. It's really cool, and it's easily one of the best books I've ever read. You can even pick it up for free if you sign up for a 30-day free trial at audible.com/shoddy. But if you have no interest at all in the best book ever written about modern mythology, no worries. They have over 180,000 other audiobooks you can choose from. Go to audible.com/shoddy or click the link in the doobly-doo to start your 30-day free trial right now. Also, I'm finally done moving and all kinds of other bullshit, although I am currently getting sick, it seems. In any case, I'm finally gonna start streaming 3 days a week. Woo! Here's the schedule. Monday is competitive ranked Overwatch, so if you hop over soon today, you can catch me qualifying. Tuesday is, I don't fucking know yet, something. And Wednesday is Fallout New Vegas. Yeah! Thank you everyone for watching my most nitpicky video I've indulged myself in, although as I say that, I do realize the very first open letter video I did was about the lack of toilets in Skyrim, so actually maybe I rescind this. But certainly the most nitpicky thing I've looked at, like punching street signs. But I was streaming and I punched one, and I was like, oh, that just snaps like nothing, I wonder how hard it would be. And then I couldn't stop thinking about how strong you'd have to be to punch a sign in half. And now I want to look at a ton of other games where people punch stuff and like figure out how strong they would have to be to punch stuff. I should do like an ultimate punching episode of the punches. Like how beat up would you be if you actually beat Punch Out in one day or something? I don't know, I'm gonna go now. Thanks for joining. Thank you for Patreon people who make this possible. I apologize to Patreon people because I've been basically getting these episodes done the day they're due. That will not be happening in the future. I've just been totally frickin' overworked. But so starting next week, early access for Patreon people will be back. And yes, watch me stream today. Follow me on Twitter at ARHorrigan. Follow Shoddycast. Yeah, that's it. That's what I got. What do you got? Angry comments in the comment thingy. Hey, if you don't usually leave comments, you should leave a positive comment. Make my day. Most people don't leave positive ones. Anyway, I'm gonna go now. Bye!